Well, hello, welcome to I Love Gay today. We're going to have some fun today. We're with one of my favorite colleagues in the LGBT media space, Diane Anderson-Minshall from Pride Media. How are you?
I'm good, Matt. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. You and I were chatting earlier. It's that we've been in the same general LGBT media space and in each other's lives in and out for well over I think 20 years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
But I should have said 20 plus. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely 20.
but you're CEO of Pride Media today, and we'll chat more about that. But your history, I mean, you've been in media, and I know you were with Curve and quite a number of different, especially lesbian focused LGBT media over the years.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I got my start as a freelancer. I started out in newspapers actually while I was still in school,
Yeah.
and then transitioned into other forms of media. And I tried, television and tried radio for a while and magazines. And I was in mainstream in New York doing mainstream magazine work. And excuse me. And I came out and that changed everything. And so I discovered The Advocate and quickly discovered Curve, which had just launched. I was on Castro Street at a parade when these very sexy girls were handing out flyers from windows and in front of different like bookstore. And so I
Yep.
discovered Curve right then. So I wrote for both of them like my very first year when I transitioned into LGBTQ media.
Yeah.
And those were first my start. So it's really lovely that I basically came back around to Curve and spent a decade there. That was after I had helped found Girlfriends and was
Yeah.
there almost a decade,
Yeah.
worked at QSF and Passport, and then consulted with a number of outlets that don't exist anymore,
Yeah.
but were really pivotal.
Yeah.
And then after Curve, was going to take a year-long sabbatical actually after we sold that company and got the offer to come down to what is now Pride Media
Yeah.
and be an editor at The Advocate and Plus and decided, yeah, that's good.
But
Let's do that then.
by the way, though, did you? I'm sure you saw the documentary Franco had created with about Curve.
Yeah, I was in it.
You were in it. I thought so. Yes, yes. So, wasn't that amazing? I really loved watching that. It's actually the only his documentary and piece of history that really kind of like resonated in terms of that was our lives back then.
Oh yeah, and it's so funny too because again, even like you're thinking about like it was so much our whole lives at that point, and we were all young and hot
Yeah,
also.
yeah,
And so, I mean, I was married very young, but we're both, at that time cute little baby dykes and stuff. And so we're just all about our, sexual empowerment and our liberation
yeah,
and of course we were I was a big ACT UP member in Queer Nation. And so, as our friends started dying,
yeah,
things
yeah.
tempered down in that way. But yeah, there's been a documentary about Curve and one about The Advocate. And
Oh,
both are, yeah, definitely labors of love. So,
yes.
yeah.
I'll have to see the one on the Advocate, but yeah, because I know you had come on board with Pride Media back like, probably when it was still called Here Media,
It
and
was.
you're on board with them, but uh, over the last few years, and you elevated to running the ship. So how did all that come about?
Well, I came, I think, to what was Here Media
Yeah.
in 2010 or 2011, and at the first point, I was just coming in as an executive editor of The Advocate, and then editor of Plus Magazine, which is our now, which is our HIV magazine for people living with HIV, and it's over 25 years old now too,
Yeah.
and and so I was originally coming in for that, but then I worked, I think 5 years and just kind of kept moving up and was into, higher and higher roles and had the opportunity. One thing that Here Media was good about is that they allowed their employees to sort of branch off and open their own companies
Yeah.
and work with them as subcontractors. And so, Aaron Out did that with Grand Editorial, and Stephen Macias and Mark Umbach did that in the public
Yes. Yeah.
relations sphere. So I was like, I want to do this in the editorial. I would just want to open. So Jacob, my husband, who's transgender, and I opened up Retrograde Communications and basically subcontracted out. And initially, we did other client work for, in groups like, we did some stuff with Marriott and we did some stuff with Greater Than AIDS and
Yeah.
some stuff like that. But largely, it was these publications that we were running for Here Media. And we were
Yeah.
doing all the editorial from A to Z in the print sphere. And
Wow.
then a couple years ago, we were still in this role, and they were looking at whether we wanted to take on Out at that moment. And we had done a proposal for Out on that, and it just so happens that the last CEO let himself go in during a period of upheaval here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And have you ever heard the glass cliffs theory?
No, no.
So the glass cliff theory is basically that women are often brought in to help organizations after a period where men have made a lot of mistakes. And so they come in, they work for less money, they fix things, but they also come in during like the worst of times. So
Yes.
I will say I came in and I had this incredible talent here. Our all LGBTQ leadership teams and senior staff, but I did come in with a group that had a lot of PTSD from so much upheaval
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
recent years. And so it was really my first task was to really sort of, this sounds kind of hokey for a CEO, but was to sort of like nurture those individuals and get
Yeah.
people, sort of feeling good about what we were doing and why they're here and why they're committed to these brands, and how we can, instead of competing with each other, how we can sort of lift each other up in these moments and stuff. So it was a
Yeah.
great opportunity for me. Would
Yeah.
never
That's
turn.
I love hearing that. Yeah, especially because especially in today's world, people know that your company is it's corporate owned. It's now part of, it's been around for many years and it's kind of grown up in that sense. But you've got a team. What is like about 30 people there now,
Yeah,
but it's an amazing LGBT diverse team that you guys have put together that I think needs to be acknowledged in that sense.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think we had the earliest transgender executive editor at Out. We have Jacob is the editor in chief of Out Traveler, so the only trans man who's an editor in chief in a
Okay.
major travel publication. We have one of the things we did over the last 2 years is we emphasize prioritizing diversity in the company as well. We kind of wanted to like walk our talk a little bit better.
Yeah.
So at this moment, we're currently 60% employees of color
Okay.
and 40% white employees. And
Yeah.
then the male female skew is 50-50. And
Yeah.
there's no pay discrepancies between genders.
Well, that's nice to hear.
I know,
So,
right?
especially in
So,
this day and age.
yeah, that took work, but it's good.
Yeah, but you were talking about the upheaval and when you came in. So obviously, like I remember back then, there was kind of a pivot on the style of editorial and a lot of what was happening. But it seems that ever since you came on board, it seems like you've really stabilized a lot of that, and it's kind of come back also some of it a bit to its roots.
I think that's probably true. It's probably, it's just I serve as the editorial director right now, the executive editorial director of all of our brands.
Yeah.
And some of the things that were really important to me was to make sure that we're really excelling on the newsstands. This year, we actually launched The Advocate and Out Traveler back onto newsstands by themselves.
Okay.
Advocate used to be polybagged with Out on the newsstands for
Yeah.
the decade that I was here.
Yeah.
And so it was always a goal. It's its own magazine to get it back on the newsstands. But with that, you have to really please the people who are picking it up at Barnes and Noble or this summer at Target. We're going to be at
Yeah.
Target. That's a big deal for us. So, and then relaunching Out Traveler, something I've wanted for a decade as well. And there's a number of people on staff who wanted that and were willing to work for it and stuff. So I think there's probably some, I'm not the hippest, coolest person on staff. I'm lucky though that I have some really great folks, both as the ed chiefs, the digital directors, and our editorial directors below me are just amazing.
Yeah. And also, it's interesting because I follow through social media. I follow Advocate Out but also Out Traveler, and I think travel. I've been a part of IGLTA for 20 plus years as well, and so I think that's near and dear to my heart. But I've really noticed, and especially with Out Traveler, you guys really treat social media in a way that that elevates it. It's not just that it's a traffic driver. It's not just a place where you throw your headlines out there and hope that people are going to come to the website. You really put a lot of emphasis in realizing that social media does a lot of heavy lifting nowadays. That's a lot of, that's where the influencers live and so much, but you guys really kind of, in some ways, I think, speak or talk like an influencer through Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And I think that's amazing.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to owe that all to largely to the direction of Mike Hale Street. He is, took over as our social media director and edit and digital editorial director. But one of the things that he pushed for very early, that initially I was like, I don't know, but was some social first stories, like stories that are told. It's basically storytelling on social media. And he really, I think, helped drill that into me. And it makes a lot of sense. There's so many people who are never going to read a magazine, and they may not even read the website, but they're on social media. So they see a little story on Instagram. That means something to them. So we did launch the Out Weddings that was just social first. We ended up using some of it in print, some of it on digital, but really it's just a social series that shares the stories of, LGBTQ couples getting married, and it's just so beautiful. So we get a lot of like great feedback from that. I think nowadays any media company, whether you are LGBTQ or where you're the mainstream media, you really have to look at all these different touch points where you're meeting your readers or you're meeting your consumers. And these are not overlapping people sometimes, like our magazine readers are older than our digital readers, who are older than our social readers, who obviously are going to be different than retail, so there's a lot of different touch points. You have to meet people.
I also believe that they all can work together in a way as well. And so especially the short form, social media being kind of a short form storytelling, it's a great place to get people excited. And then if they like it, whether it's the video clips or it's just pieces of a story, they can click and read and follow up and find out more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we launched this year as well was a joint venture with Equal Entertainment, and with that we launched a daily web series called Pride Today, and it's sort of in its beta stage. We're working out what is really going to work there and how to expand that. But it was a complement to our current podcast LGBTQ&A, which is through the Advocate and Jeffrey Masters. But launching Pride Today, it's basically we're doing headlines. Each of our editors is taking turns, and they're doing headlines that were from each of the sites that day, and then that's including Pride Plus, Out Traveler, Out, The Advocate, as well as Equals Celebrity Page, because they do CelebrityPage.com as well as that television show. So that's brought a whole new dimension to us as well. And I think that as we shore that up, there's going to be people who are only going to be watching, and that's a new thing for us as well.
I'm glad you mentioned Jeffrey and his podcast. I like it. I follow that. And I also follow a lot of his posts on social media. He does a great job for you guys.
Jeffrey is brilliant. I was the person advocating to bring him on. He was introduced to me by one of our former editors. And as soon as David, introduced me, I was just like, Lucas, who was head at the time, you have to bring this guy on. And so I was really excited. Jeffrey, he is, our special projects editor, and he's working on all of the video projects that we've got in works. But what I really love is he is somebody who is very youthful, and so he speaks the language of younger people, but at the same time he really, really reveres people, not just our generation, but from generations before us. So one of his projects he came up with on his own, like last month is, or I guess it's probably going on this month, is the Elders Project. And so each of his podcasts is focused on somebody who is an LGBTQ elder. And unfortunately, I think they're all older than me. So
I know.
But it's nice.
I cringe.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, sorry. I cringe when I realize that in some categories I'm considered a senior or an elder, and I'm like, no way.
Such a weird thing too, because we're looking at buying a place in Palm Springs, and because I love Palm Springs and it's such a queer city, and our California, where we live in California normally is out in the desert that way. And but you have to, there's these parks that are like, senior parks, but they're 55 and up. So I'm like, oh, I'm a year away. There you go.
I'm
I
there.
I know, I'm right there. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to lean into this. I'm going to take up pickleball, become a senior Olympian or something. I've got goals. I'm heading head first into 60.
I'm right there with you. Is it anything exciting on the horizon? Especially now things are opening up and it's a whole new year. And so yeah, what do you guys got going?
Oh my gosh, it's been such a good year. We did the first ever LGBTQ Star Trek Collector's Edition last month, and that had, I think we had 6 covers total with the cast and the showrunner that are all LGBTQ. It was sort of amazing. We did this Emily Hampshire cover shoot with The Advocate where we just had, she's from Schitt's Creek, but she posed in David's clothing from the show. He's obviously, a big gay icon, and she's queer herself.
Okay.
And the Trixie Motel Without Traveler just came out. I think one of the things that we're looking forward to is getting back out there in spaces. So we've sort of like taken off the travel moratorium for our editors. We're going back out on press trips, but we're also going to be looking at events. The Out 100 has been virtual the last 2 years, and that's been really lovely. I mean, we've been amazed at the millions who've tuned into the Out 100. We did I think the first year is a partnership with Reverie. But now we might be looking at getting that back out there and going live again. So I'm kind of excited. I'm ready to get back out there in places, safely, of course. So, but when we can be safe, I think it's nice to get back out there. Some of the big change too is that we've got a really big change we're going to be announcing in April.
Okay.
I think it's towards the end of April. Beginning of May probably is when we'll announce, and it's going to be huge for the company. I so wish I could share it with you right now because I hate when people tease stuff. But I really think it's going to please a lot of people. I think it's going to probably, one of my goals for the last 2 years has been putting an end to the kinds of criticism that the company has got over the years. And one of those for a long time was Out So White, that hashtag, right? And so we've really worked to make diversity, inside and outside that magazine an important thing. So I know that there's other things that people have, complained about the company or our brands over the last few years. And I think this announcement in April, end of April, early May is going to really surprise them and excite them as well. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
thank you.
And I'm also looking forward next time I'm out in I was going to say out in LA, but no, just whenever I'm on the West somewhere and I'm able to find a way to connect. It'll be nice to reconnect with you here again.
Oh, I'd love that as well. Yeah, I want to also start getting back to LA more often because it's an easy place to miss,
Yeah,
especially in the winter.
I know what no, this is great. So, well, thank you so much for taking some moments of your time to share kind of a bit of your story with our audience. And like I said, I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much, Matt. I really
All right,
appreciate it.
take care.
You too.
Feels good, so good.